And welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You are joining me for a preseason team update. I must say, I haven't been fiddling with my team as much as previous years. I've kind of set one, held on to it, not fiddled around too much. I found this preseason, there's not enough new information coming around that's really shifting and changing the structure of my team quite heavily. I feel like I've landed on one pretty well. I know the players that are on my watch list, and I'm really just waiting until those practice games and preseason games happen before I start to react to those. If I was just jumping at every little bit of news, I think a team would be changing 100 times a day, but trying to avoid doing that this year because it's probably not healthy. But anyway, it's fun. I know it's fun. So very quickly, I guess I'll go through what my team looks like at the moment. We'll fill this out. As always, the rookies are very much placeholders at this point in the year, and we know as they get selected or not, those can change quite rapidly, especially towards round one. So yeah, we'll be laying it out as it currently is, and also talking about the types of players that are next up and how it would shift this team, who I'm looking at next in a couple of positions, all those types of things. But let's jump into it. So down back, we are going very light, and it is just one player. There isn't a mid-pricer. It's Jordan Dawson. That hasn't really changed since the start of the preseason. I think the other player I would have run or would look to run instead of Dawson would be Stewart. I think both are great options. And then probably Sicily. Doherty, I'm not as in love with just because a little bit unsure about the role. Yes, Walsh is out, so he could be getting mid-minutes early, and that could lead to good scoring. But yeah, just not entirely convinced. I mean, no Zach Williams probably helps as well. Look, here's someone that could come into consideration, but as of right now, it's Dawson, who's just been announced captain. The other players I could look to, actually, we'll talk about them a little bit more later when the team's filled out and how the structure would change. But I think Young and Dacos are the two at the 500k mark that everyone kind of has to consider. All right, next up is Yo, who I think is 337. We've seen what he can do in the past. 100 to 110 at his price point is the upside. He just got to stay fit and healthy. So far, preseason's been good. All the signs have been positive. So I think just have to keep him in the side for now. And then from here, we start getting really cheap. This is a very thin back line at the moment. So let's just fill it out. Weddle and Wilmot, where are you? So you can probably tell from the way I've laid this out is that I think the 600k defenders are broadly overpriced, despite many of them potentially being able to outperform what they did last year. I think picking which one of those are going to be the ones to outperform and those that you'll lose money on is a little bit difficult. So I'd rather avoid and pick them up opportunistically throughout the year. I also think a lot of the good value in the rookies is down back. Goda, second year player, liked what he did last year or the end of last year, as well as at AFL level. Ginby is the player that's meant to be rotating with Yo between halfback and mid, so good role and nothing. Everything we've heard out of the West Coast camp is that he's big body, ready to play, already developed. Caulfield, mature age, should be getting a halfback role. It looks very built out. There's still some concerns of whether he'll be fit, but if he is, I think he should return great value at 208k. And then McKenna should be able to go 70s for that price, which is very good with I think reasonably high job security. Weddle, preseason reports have been good, and Wilmot looks like he's best 22 based on what we've seen out of the Lions camp so far, but I think he's at the bottom of the best 22 behind McKenna still, so a little bit sketchy, but yeah, I think this is all fine for now. The other rookie that's high on the watch list is Cowan, with Williams going down, so he's one that definitely could get around one berth for the Blues in probably a pretty fantasy-friendly role. In the midfield, as many of you know, I have been off the top price guys, and there is cons to this, both around captain's options and whether or not I'll have enough of the top end players. But with Dunkley going, I'm loading up on the Dogs, both of these to get more CBAs this year, bounce back and provide value at their price. I think they can both go 120, provide 5+ points of upside, which is really good at this range. Next up, I've got Parrish, but I mean, this is still tossing it between Parrish, Steele, Cripps even. Someone around this price point, which, yeah, it's probably the spot I'm least sure about in the mids at the moment. But Parrish, we've seen when he's fit and healthy and getting those CBAs, he can do 120 quite easily. need to watch how the preseason actually pans out in the practice games to see what Essendon's game style is now. But if he's fit and firing, then yeah, Parrish in a contract year, I'm interested in. Next, I've got Tom Green, who I've been on since the start of the preseason as a value pick with Hopper and Taranto gone, as well as Bruin as well. He should just be the number one inside bull for the Giants this year. Looking to get a 110 out of him. And then same with Mitchell. I think he's been brought in to do a job at the Pies, and that is to be that inside winner. I think it's all he's going to do. Yes, Pies' game style may not be the friendliest, but he's going to be at the coalface for 70 to 80% CBAs, I would have thought, which should lead to really good bounce back and scoring and be great value. Now, with this setup of these 5 here, you're almost banking on all 5 of them being top 8 or just thereabouts, and that does look a little bit scary because there's no Laird, Oliver, Neil, Miller, Mills, and like all of these 5 could be thereabouts again. So to miss out on at least 2 of them by going the structure is a little bit scary. I would say the positive here is that Green and Mitchell both have the last buys, and because they're value based, I can always trade them out around that point if I have to for someone that, like Miller who plays early, whatever it may be. I could always swap them out for one of those. I don't have Steele either, which is a bit scary. But yeah, that's the downside, but it is a stronger midfield. And then next up is the same player everyone has had since SuperCoach opened. That's Hopper. Sheed and Warple can both be considered as well, but probably not over Hopper. I don't really like Sheed, even with massive CBAs in the past. I think 80% plus CBAs, he still managed low 90s, which would be okay at his price point still, but that's basically what you have to get in mass CBAs and him to kind of repeat one of his better years. It's not always the safest chance, and Warple should outperform his price as well, but just not sure if I can trust him in that Hawks midfield at the moment. And then the next 2 up is going to be Ashcroft. By all reports, he's ready to go, should be getting CBAs. I mean, it should be this year's Dacos, this year's Walsh, where it's just the top guy that should get a pretty good position and end up being able to return money. And then who have we got next? Phillips. Everyone should have, or I think almost everyone does, like 50% owned. Wow. What was Ashcroft at 68%? Surprised Phillips only 50%. But yeah, mature age for North. Missed time last year with glandular fever, I want to say. But I mean, in his rookie year, he would have returned enough money if he was at 158k. Now he's 3rd-year player. So yeah, this should be fine. And then to fill out the bench, Johnson, although a little bit unsure about whether he gets a role. Constable had a reasonable article come out about him today saying he's been moved to halfback. Basically, he's not going to crack the Gold Coast Suns' depth in the mids. So permanent halfback move for him, which is a little bit interesting as to whether or not he can lock that down with Powell having a hamstring problem that puts him in doubt for round 1, and Weller still coming back from an ACL, which I think he's trying to beat round 1 kind of time frame. And then finally, Oscar Baker seems like he may get games. So like mature age player for the Dogs, may get games for them. We'll just see what happens there. But I mean, these are rookies. I'm not placing too much weight in any of them. All of these 123 guys are changeable for other 123 players that may pop up. Rucks are very, very difficult at the moment, and I don't love picking from them. So English today had a hamstring scare with him not taking, not participating in the match practice because of hamstring tightness. He was cleared of any damage, and they're just easing his workload in. But that's the second soft tissue scare he's had this preseason so far, and with his history of concussions as well as some other soft tissue problems. Not loving the English pick, especially given that you're paying top dollar for him at the moment. He can definitely outscore his price, but the durability risk on him is starting to get to a point where I'm a little bit worried about picking him. You generally don't want to take the durability risk in your premiums. You want to be taking that in your mid prices and below. And then next up is Marshall, who I think is the clear number 1 ruck. I think he's probably the most owned, but yeah, 41%. He's probably the most obvious ruck to pick at the moment. His value at his price, he should outperform that. He doesn't have Ryder there this year, and with Campbell having problems with his foot, I think, did he have Liz Frank or something else like that? And the problems with Saints forward line, it looks like Marshall should just be sitting number one ruck for at least the first part of the year, and that's better than we can say for most. Of the other rucks, I don't really want to pay up for Wits, even though he may repeat a 110. I still don't really want to pay 605 for that. Maybe it wouldn't be too bad. To be honest, if I could get guaranteed 110, maybe I would pay 605 over English. Gawn should go backwards. Darcy, I don't know. The reports out of Freo about Jackson getting, potentially ruck time, that changing week to week, scares me a little bit about Darcy. Rob, I think, is still battling withdrawn for position. Nick Nat has somewhat come into consideration despite his woeful injury history, just because he can definitely outdo a 98. But I think the sub rule he's the type of player that you could sub out with the sub rule because he only plays 68, 70% game time anyway. Blitz is probably not in the ruck anymore with Segler, so not an interesting option. I don't know. Do I look at Nankervis? Probably not. Grundy, I just don't think he's going to be relevant playing in the same side as Gawn. I mean, maybe he'd go 110 still. But yeah, like the only other real option here is Cameron, who I have had in my team at some points, but he's obviously had problems. What's he tagged with here? He's still got the hamstring. Expected to be available for round 1 to 2. Yes, so he should be back and playing, but I don't know. This is pretty scary. I said in Discord today, my current plan is basically not worrying about the rucks. Let's see what happens through the rest of the preseason. Maybe there's injuries or shifts or whatever that happens, and it just someone obviously becomes the ruck option. But as of right now, it's Marshall, and then I don't know who else. All right, in the forward line, I don't love it, but I have buckled and I have gone to 4 premium forwards. I just works with the structure and where I like players and where I don't like players and where the value is. I think basically all 5 of the forwards that we have this year, so those 4+ cogs, probably are all underpriced. They all represent value. They all do carry some injury risk, some durability risk, but they should all outperform their price. So you kind of want to load up on them. I guess the one consideration here is whether Cogs comes in for either Butters or Rosie. And normally I would say no, because I'm just a big believer in both the Port boys, but GWS's fixture to start the year is so soft. This isn't the first time I pointed this out, either on my own channel or on the FantasyTakeTV podcast. And I know others have pointed out as well, but Crows, West Coast, Blues, Essendon, Hawks, like 4 of those first 5 are just against proper bottom sides. So yep. If you're planning to get him at some point and you think he's probably underpriced, why wouldn't you start him? So yeah, anyway, we'll see. We'll revisit that. And then as of right now, I have Fife in this side. I've been able to manage to fit in a lot of the players with the way I've structured this by dodging the big boys. I just don't remember what his price is. At 3 something, 313. 313, there you go. I'm unsure. I'm pretty sure one of the mid-price forwards I'll end up picking, whether it's Fife, Miller, Flanders. I think one of these is probably going to end up being a good option, but as of right now, it's going to be Fife. Yes, he's going to play forward, but if we see him getting, I think even 30, 40% mid-time, I think that's enough for him to go 90 plus. And yeah, like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I think he's good enough, and Freya's a good enough side that he can still return a good score there. But yeah, if we see like 90% forward time, I'm probably jumping off and looking for one of the other guys. Or one of the other guys may just present as a better option. Maybe Miller is getting kick-ins and he just becomes really obvious. Maybe Zeeble ends up being a good option. I don't know. I feel like I don't even want to talk that into existence. Anyway, Toby McLean, rookie everyone's had on his side. And then got to load up on my boy, Jay Davey. Look, ACL and out for the year, definitely. Is his brother more likely of the 2 to debut round 1? Yes, but spirit animal for the team right now. We'll fix this up later. And then last but not least, to make this team work, we've got Drury there, who I heard a little bit more mixed reports lately. He seems less likely to get a game round 1. But yeah, this is the team as it stands right now. I think it's a pretty good looking team. I really do like it. Maybe you disagree. I think a lot of people would be scared off by no Laird or Oliver. I think that would be a problem for a lot of people. But as I promised, I thought I'd talk about a couple of ways I'd be looking to change up this team if I had to kind of make things work. So one would be if Young was getting the kick-ins at Freo, we could go Dawson down to Young. That frees up 100k and you can do a lot. You could put Parrish up to Oliver or Laird there if you wanted to. Or you could do something like put Butters to Cornelio if you like. Cogs is a better option. Can I do both? Oh, just short. I could go to Neil or Miller, but I can't do both there. And then what else? So another error, I guess I kind of mentioned already, but yeah, Fife. So say I don't end up liking Fife and there's a different mid-price forward option that we like here. So it could be that you really want to get Allen. It could be that, maybe not Horn Francis, it's more expensive, wrong direction. It could be Savarada Galea ends up locking down a best 22 spot for the Cats, and you want to have him as an option with Madden, given how rough our forward lines are. It could be Miller. I was going to scroll down and look for him, but I actually think that he's that's a more expensive option as well. But yeah, it could be Miller. It could be Flanders as well, though. And so if I go Flanders, I can get Cogs in. I can get Parrish up to Oliver, who's really highly owned. I'm so confused about why he's so owned, given the problems that he's had with his hand this preseason. Everything has to go right if you're priced at 700k for you to back that up. And this screams to me that everything is not right. But anyway, so yeah, so that's another way you could do it. Get Flanders in here instead. You get Parrish up to Oliver. Yeah, you've got Young. Like, this defense is pretty weak. The other option would be as well is, say you still wanted Butters. You could put someone from like Caulfield up to Bose here, who I've missed, and that kind of strengthens that a little bit. So yeah, I think this this team has a lot of flexibility depending on how you actually want to put in those last 5 or so slots, depending on what you like and what comes out of the preseason. But that's just how I've got it set up for now. Parrish. And then in the forwards, we've got 5. There we go. So that is the team for now. As I said, I'm not changing it very frequently at the moment. I kind of know the structure that I like and what my options are to fiddle around with to kind of move things around. Oh, the other option I didn't talk about, sorry, is if English ends up going down to Cameron, that's 130k. So that would let me do something like Parrish up to Oliver and Butters up to Cogs just straight off the bat, if someone wanted to do that. But yeah, that's the team for now. I think this feels and looks pretty strong on paper, but let me know what you think, and I will do my next team update probably just before the practice matches begin. I don't know if there's going to be too much change, but then from that point on, we will start to see a lot more change as the news and the stats roll in. Thanks for viewing as always. Comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.